Extremely dangerous Matthew now moving away from the Colombian coastline with 150-mile-per-hour winds. I'm Mike Naso on YouTube here with the IPR Tropical Update as we continue to watch very dangerous Matthew on its trek through the Caribbean Sea. We're going to get right to it at this time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Matthew was at 13.8 north, 73.6 west. Maximum sustained winds still 150, gusting well into the Category 5 range. A terrific hurricane, very, very dangerous. Moving now north-northwest at about 6 or 7 miles an hour. We saw it stationary most of the day. It didn't move a whole lot, but we're now beginning to see that turn we've been talking about towards the coastlines of Jamaica and even more likely now the southeastern or southwestern portion of Haiti, which is very, very, very bad news. That country still reeling from the devastation of the earthquake it had back in 2010, and of course very susceptible to Mother Nature's wrath. The pressure 940 millibars will get the Air Force in there in a couple of hours. Nevertheless, you can see the track here by sometime on Monday impacting the coastline of Haiti and then into eastern Cuba as a very intense hurricane, probably a Category 3 or 4, and then being a major hurricane as it goes through the Bahamas, on track towards being just north of the areas there of Abaco Island, maybe Grand Bahama Island, that area there, maybe a little bit to the east of that. Beyond that time frame, it gets a little dicey, although I will say the computer models are seeming to agree it's moving northwest, then north, then north-northwest, and then probably a turn back towards the north and potentially towards being out to sea. But again, if you live in Florida all the way up to Cape Hatteras, even New England, keep a close eye on Matthew, because when you're dealing with a hurricane this strong, you never want to get your hopes up that it'll miss you. You can see the UK Met model takes it right offshore of the Florida coastline, and that would be very disturbing if it did take a trek like the UK Met model shows towards southeast Florida. That would be just a lot of trouble right there. The BAM model is also showing that, but as of right now, the consensus is still much further to the north and the east. There's a satellite of Hurricane Matthew. You can see how it pretty much was stationary throughout the day. And right at the end there, it begins to move to the north-northwest. Much more impressive, by the way, in these last couple of images than it was before. So don't be surprised if it fluctuates up and down. It's 150 right now. If it gets any stronger, it could even become a Category 5 hurricane again. And look at this huge blow-up of convection that's been persistent just north of the Colombian, Venezuelan coastline there. And we were seeing a lot of lightning offshore, a lot of bad weather. And again, this is almost helping to feed moisture into the hurricane despite really meager upper-level conditions. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not impressed, haven't been impressed, nobody's impressed with the upper-level wind shear. You can see it continues to be right over the top of the hurricane. It does have a little bit of a safe harbor down here, far in the southern Caribbean Sea. But again, I've about given up when it comes to the wind shear maps. What's the point? This storm's about as strong as they get. Although I should note that the upper level divergence is very strong over this side of the hurricane, which could explain that flare-up of convection. I wouldn't want to be a ship caught in that. That would be probably just as bad as the hurricane itself, although the tightest core right here is where those Category 4 winds are around Matthew. Now, as the system continues to move by, it will get towards hotter and hotter oceanic heat content, and you can see where Matthew is sitting right about now is not even the hottest water, so there is the potential for re-intensification prior to its landfall impacts in Haiti and eastern Cuba, and its at least indirect impact on Jamaica with very, very significant waves, storm surge, and rainfall. The rainfall is going to be horrendous in areas of Haiti. You can see the rain rate out there right now with the hurricane is very, very intense, and especially off in that band there where we saw that convection bursting. As the hurricane flips around and moves towards the north, those rains over Haiti can approach, in some areas, even 40 inches of heavy rainfall. Mudslides, flooding, very dangerous situation. If you know anybody in these areas, be sure to warn them. In Jamaica, too, you're going to have the onshore flow around the hurricane, so the tide levels will be very high. And in eastern Cuba and Haiti, you'll get storm surges 8 to 12 feet at least. Category 3 or 4 hurricane, that's a lot of water rise and a lot of impacts. There's another look at Hurricane Matthew on the water vapor imagery, and you can still see this protective barrier the hurricane put up here in response to the westerly wind shear. And again, the inner core has remained quite robust. I'm very impressed with it. But now we are beginning to see that movement, and as the troughiness begins in the eastern Gulf of Mexico and the ridging has been dominating, we're going to see the ridging back off, the hurricane pull towards the north, and that is going to impact Haiti, Jamaica, and Cuba, to say nothing of which of the Bahamas, which, remember, if this is re-intensifying as it is moving through the Bahamas, it could be even worse than if it was in a steady state or even weakening. So if you live in the Turks, Caicos, Bahamas, be on the lookout, be getting your hurricane plan in place now. You're probably going to be under a hurricane watch in about 12 to 24 hours as Matthew makes its approach. But again, a very powerful hurricane in October in the Atlantic Basin, the strongest hurricane we've seen in a couple of years, and it is poised to make landfall in the southwestern portion of Haiti and the southeastern portion of Cuba as a major storm. I'm Mike Naso. That's the latest on Hurricane Matthew. I'll see you next time as we continue to watch this very dangerous hurricane in the Caribbean Sea.